Incredible surgery reveals young doctor's shocking secret. He's a mirror image of the millionaire. On a bright Wednesday morning, Dr. Jake Lawson tightened his surgical mask, his heart racing with excitement and a hint of anxiety. At just 28, he had worked his way up in the bustling suburban hospital, a place that thrummed with life and hope. He was here to perform a routine surgery on Thomas Lee, a local millionaire whose name echoed through the alleys of prosperity. But as anesthesia swept over Thomas, something stopped Jake cold. There, beneath the sterile lights, he saw a reflection of himself in the patient's features, a doppelganger. It left him breathless, the same kind eyes, the same warm smile. Years of hard work had led him here, but that mirror-like connection shook something deep inside. He thought of his late father, a veteran who instilled in him the values of grit and integrity, and of his mother, who sacrificed and struggled to provide a woman of unwavering strength who taught him to never shy away from challenges. Jake wouldn't allow this chance to slip, even if it meant stepping into the spotlight that could blind him. News spread like wildfire. Every cafe buzzed with theories about the striking resemblance. The restaurant where Jake used to work during college transformed into a gossip mill. Friends hailed him as a rising star. Relatives beamed with pride. Yet beneath their admiration, Jake felt an uncomfortable tension, a conflict between who he was and who others thought he should be. But then, an allure learned in the harsh light of struggle surfaced. He was offered a partnership with Thomas Lee, a golden ticket to the wealth and status he'd long admired. To embrace this opportunity meant financial security, prestige, and all that glitters. Yet lurking beneath that shiny surface were the whispers of his past. Would taking this offer erase the identity crafted from his mother's sacrifices and his father's lessons? Was this success born of hard work or simplistic chance? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each day drew him closer to that fateful decision. He couldn't shake the feeling of dread as doubts crept in. What if his resemblance to Thomas held deeper ties? What if they shared more than mere genes? A statement engulfed him. Could they maybe be kin? The idea sent Jake spiraling. He sought solace at the local homeless shelter, volunteering each week, bringing food and hope to a community often overlooked. The resilient faces were a reminder of his roots, the humanity that truly mattered. Just as Jake seemed ready to make a choice, a startling revelation pushed him to his breaking point, a hidden family secret that might link him and Thomas in ways he never imagined. Gaze fixed in the mirror, he understood. This wasn't just about a resemblance. This was a battle for his identity, and those reflections harbored mysteries with the power to change everything. How far would Jake go to preserve his true self? The following days felt like a whirlwind. Each tick of the clock seemed to push Jake further into a corner. The whisper of doubt lingered, an echo that wouldn't fade. Was he truly prepared to confront whether he and Thomas were connected by blood? Memories of family dinners, laughter, and the warmth of his mother's safety net flooded his mind. Could he lose that just to chase wealth? Finally, he took the plunge and decided to confront Thomas after the surgery. He watched as the rich man awoke, eyes blinking away the haze of anesthesia, and he felt a strange pang of kinship. Their gazes locked for a brief moment, a weird connection that sent shivers down Jake's spine. "Dr. Lawson," Thomas began, his voice hoarse but steady. "I owe you my life." Jake managed a smile, but inside his heart twisted. "Just doing my job," he replied, but his mind swirled. Over the next few days, Jake spent his free time by Thomas's side, partly to ensure his recovery, but also to gauge the mystery of their resemblance. They shared stories, both men recounting childhood memories, family dinners, a love for the same childhood book. The more they opened up, the clearer it became. Every shared detail felt like a piece of a jigsaw puzzle locked away for years. But one evening, while the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the rooms, Thomas suddenly grew serious. "Jake, there's something I need to tell you," he said, his usual humor replaced by a somber tone. "Sure," Jake responded, heart racing, sensing the weight of the moment. Whispers in my family about illegitimate relations. Thomas paused, searching Jake's face. Rumors that have always been pushed aside. But given your resemblance, I can't ignore them anymore. My father was never open about his past. Jake felt his pulse quicken. What do you mean? Like a secret? From my father's side, yes. I once discovered an old family letter, suggesting something unspoken, something that could tie more than just our appearances together. Thomas leaned closer. His demeanor changed, urgency lighting his eyes. What if we really are connected? Jake's voice barely rose above a whisper. The gravity of the moment left the air thick with tension. Jake's mind was racing. This wasn't just about concealing his identity anymore, it was about uncovering the truth that might shake the very foundation of who he believed himself to be. As he left Thomas's room that night, the revelation loomed like a storm cloud overhead. His hands trembled as he replayed every moment. What secrets did their families hold? What if family meant more than just blood? Would he find himself once he peeled back the layers of his past? Jake glanced at his reflection in the dim hallway mirror. The image staring back at him felt foreign yet familiar. It was a stranger wearing his face, whispering, "Find the truth." What awaited him was a journey into hidden histories, family loyalties, and perhaps the key to his own identity. Was he ready to unveil the secrets not just of Thomas Lee but of his own existence? As he stepped outside into the cool evening air, determination surged through him. He wouldn't stop until he unearthed the truth. But with every step he took, a voice echoed in his mind. What if some truths were better left buried? Jake stepped into the cool night air, the stars twinkling above like distant beacons of hope. He had spent so many years trying to create his own path, establishing his identity through hard work and perseverance. Now the cracks in that carefully built facade widened with each revelation. Could it really be that this stranger before him, Thomas, held keys to unlock not just a potential lineage but a deep-seated connection that could alter the very core of his being? The uncertainty buzzed in his veins, a flickering pulse that refused to settle. He found himself wandering the familiar streets of his neighborhood, retracing steps he had taken countless times. Yet tonight felt different. Shadows stretched out before him as if they were ghosts of memories he had yet to uncover. The laughter of children playing and the distant hum of traffic faded into the background, eclipsed by the chaos storming through his mind. Family. The word echoed back at him with both warmth and bitterness. He thought of his mother, her unconditional love, and the way she could erase any doubt with a simple embrace. Would this new truth put a rift between them? The thought alone sent a shiver down his spine. Then his phone buzzed in his pocket. A message from Thomas. "Can we talk? I feel like we just scratched the surface today." Jake paused at the entrance of the park, the moonlight spilling dappled patterns on the grass. Parsing through the swirling emotions, he took a deep breath. Ignoring it wasn't an option anymore. He replied quickly, "Yeah, where?" As he made his way back to the hospital, questions ricocheted in his mind. Did they share more than just a face? What lay hidden in Thomas's past and in his own? Each step felt like he was walking toward an abyss. Was he brave enough to peer into it? Back in Thomas's hospital room, the air felt heavier, saturated with unspoken words. Thomas positioned himself to sit upright, a determined look on his face that betrayed his physical discomfort. "I did some digging. There's more to that letter than I originally thought." With every syllable, Jake felt his heart pound, a mix of anxiety and curiosity propelling him closer to the edge. "What did you find?" "It mentioned a small town, a family that was tied to mine more closely than I realized." It could. Thomas hesitated, weighing the gravity of his next statement. "It might connect to your family too." Jake's breath caught in his throat. "You think I could be part of this?" "Maybe," Thomas said, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. "I think we should go there together." The suggestion sent a rush of adrenaline through Jake, but it also drew a wave of dread. What lay ahead on this path to truth? Could the journey bring clarity? Or would it unravel everything he'd ever known? He clenched his fists, anxiety creeping up once again. "I'm in," he replied, though uncertainty washed over him, making it hard to be confident. As Jake stood on the precipice of discovery, he felt the weight of time, of secrets, pushing against his chest. The search for his own history felt like entering the unknown, a dark tunnel with light flickering at its end, urging him forward. But as they made plans, a thought flashed in his mind. What if the truth was not just what he gained, but what he might lose? The night stretched on, heavy with promise and fear, and Jake knew that when the morning light broke, there would be no turning back. Jake stood outside the hospital room, staring at the door. The sterile white walls felt like a barrier to everything he'd ever known. He took a deep breath, each inhale a mix of anticipation and dread. Would his life ever be the same after this? Jake, Thomas's voice called softly, pulling him back from the edge of his thoughts. Come in. Jake pushed the door open and stepped inside. Thomas had a notebook in his lap, filled with scrawled notes and diagrams. He looked more determined than ever, despite his bruised and weary appearance. Hey, Jake offered, forcing a smile even as his stomach churned. Ready to crack this open? More than ready, Thomas said, his voice firm. I started digging deeper into that town, the one mentioned in the letter. We might find connections not just to my family but to yours too. Have you found anything concrete? Jake asked, his pulse quickening. The idea sent a thrill down his spine, sparking something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Thomas nodded, flipping through the pages. There's a family called the Martins. They were involved with ours farming neighbors, I think. But after some events they disappeared. Nobody talks about them much. Disappeared? Jake echoed. Yeah, it's like they fell off the face of the earth. But the letter? It suggests they might have something crucial related to our lineage. I think it's worth visiting. The idea of peeling back layers of mystery was enticing. Yet fear drummed a steady beat in Jake's chest. He looked at Thomas, who was trying to muster all the conviction possible. You sure about this? Thomas leaned forward, his eyes piercing. We could be standing at the doorstep of everything we've ever wanted: answers, closure, understanding who we are. Jake tore his gaze away, folding his arms. Or we could be walking into a mess. What if we find things we don't want to know? Life is messy, Thomas replied, a flicker of intensity lighting his expression. But standing still isn't an option either. Don't you want to know? The question hung heavy in the air. What Jake wanted was security, the comfort of knowing who he was supposed to be. But now that felt like an illusion ready to shatter. Finally he nodded, swallowing hard. Okay, let us do it. As they made plans for their trip, a strange calm washed over Jake. This path might lead to the answers he sought, but it also throbbed with uncertainty. Family ties were complex. The truth could bind him or break him. That evening they set out. The road stretched long in front of them, the headlights casting a glow that cut through the night. As trees blurred past, Jake wondered what secrets lay ahead in that little town. He could feel the weight of uncharted territory pulling him in, questions waiting to be asked, stories begging to be told. They had promised each other no secrets, no hesitations. But deep down Jake struggled with fear. What if they found pieces of themselves that were better left buried? What if the journey revealed more than they were prepared to handle? Hours later, they arrived just as dusk draped the landscape in twilight colors. The town sat quiet, almost haunted. A sensation prickled at the back of Jake's mind. Was he really ready to face whatever awaited him? As they stepped out of the car, a chill crept into the air, wrapping around them like an omen. Jake turned to Thomas, uncertainty etched across his face. Do you think we're doing the right thing? Thomas met his gaze, eyes resolute. Only time will tell. As the first light of the stars began to shine, they walked toward the heart of a town hiding echoes of their past. Little did they know, the truth was already watching from the shadows. The wind whispered through the empty streets as Jake and Thomas made their way into the town. Shadows loomed, stretching long in the fading light. The buildings, weathered and worn, stood guard over the secrets buried within. Jake scanned the rows of houses, each one an echo of the past, uncertain if he would recognize anything familiar. We should start at the old Martins farm, Thomas suggested, checking his notes. It's just a few blocks from here. Do you think anyone still lives there? Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. His heart raced, thumping loudly in his chest like it was trying to warn him away. If they do, maybe they know something, Thomas replied, determination written all over his face. He gestured toward a narrow path that led to the edge of town. Let us find out. As they walked, Jake felt a strange sensation creeping across his skin. It was as if the town itself was breathing, pushing and pulling them closer to a truth lurking just out of reach. The air smelled of damp earth and nostalgia, and with each step, he felt the weight of generations pressing down on him. The Martins' farm appeared on the horizon, a sprawling expanse surrounded by thick, gnarled trees. The house was larger than he expected, with peeling paint and sagging beams. Jake hesitated at the gate, memories of his childhood flooding back, even though he had never been here before. Something about this place felt oddly familiar. "Are you ready?" Thomas asked, his hand resting on the rusty gate latch. Jake nodded, though doubt gnawed at him. "Let us do this." They crossed into the yard, tall grass swaying as if welcoming them home. A cold breeze brought goosebumps to Jake's arms, merging anticipation and dread into a single moment. Thomas approached the porch hesitantly, his hand hovering just above the doorbell, as if he were waiting for permission that would never come. "We should knock," he said. But even he seemed unsure. Before either could act, the door creaked open, revealing a figure silenced in shadows. A woman stood there, her features obscured by the dim light. "Who are you?" she asked, suspicion lacing her voice. Jake felt himself freeze. There was something in her tone that triggered a buried instinct, a thread connecting him to her. He couldn't place it, yet it felt undeniable. "We're looking for answers about the Martins," he said, taking a step forward as if drawn by an invisible thread. The woman studied him with piercing eyes that echoed a lifetime of hurt and loss. "And what makes you think you'll find them here?" Thomas stepped in, his voice steadier. "We believe we are connected to the Martins." Hours stretched as they stood there, the silence thickening, his mind racing through possibilities. What if she had the answers they craved? What if this was all a mistake? Finally, the woman's expression softened slightly, as if she sensed their desperation. "Follow me," she said, her voice barely audible, yet commanding enough to pull them along. They stepped inside, and as the door shut behind them, Jake felt the world outside fade away. Here, wrapped in the warmth of the home, lay stories that lived behind every corner. The air hung heavy with secrets, and beneath it all, a sense of longing pulled at him. "Are you two ready to hear the truth?" she asked slowly, her eyes narrowing as if weighing the impact of her words. Jake swallowed hard, his heart racing like a runaway train. "Think we are." Her gaze shifted between them, a flicker of something nearly imperceptible hinting at recognition. "Then you must know sometimes, the past reveals itself in ways we never expect." A knot twisted in Jake's stomach. What was she hiding? The question gnawed at him, but before he could voice it, a loud crash came from somewhere in the house. "Stay here," the woman ordered, her voice sharp as she turned to investigate. Jake exchanged glances with Thomas, uncertainty swirling between them. Was this part of the answer they desperately sought, or a step deeper into danger? The darkness closed in, shadows creeping like tendrils around them, and as they braced for what was to come, one thought echoed in Jake's mind. What truth was worth unearthing if it could shatter the very foundation of who he was? The woman's footsteps echoed down the hallway, leaving Jake and Thomas at the threshold of a new reality, one that promised revelations that could haunt them forever. "Are you sure we're ready for this?" Jake whispered, anxious dread creeping back in. But Thomas's eyes shone with determination. "We have to be." The silence of the house deepened, and as they dared to step further into the unknown, fate held its breath. What awaited them in those darkened halls? Jake felt an uneasy pressure building in his chest as he and Thomas hovered close to the entrance. The wood beneath their feet creaked ominously, a cruel reminder of the uncertainty that lay ahead. Every moment stretched, filled with unsaid words and questions hanging like thick mist in the air. Footsteps echoed faintly from the dark hallway, but Jake's gaze held steady on the doorway before him. The woman, a stranger, yet so familiar, moved back momentarily from the shadows, stopping just beyond their sight. He caught movement in the periphery, a glimpse of something slipping out of her grasp. It vanished, swallowed by the house's dark embrace. What was that? Jake half whispered, his voice trembling. Thomas raised an eyebrow, concern etched across his face. "I don't know, but we can't just stand here." With a mutual silent agreement, they pushed forward into the heart of the house. Dust motes danced in the slivers of fading light. Old photographs adorned the walls, flickering memories caught mid-laughter. Each face smiled down, but their eyes seemed to know something they did not. Look at this, Thomas pointed to a portrait of a stern-looking man. His resemblance to Jake tangible. A jolt surged through him, shocking and electric. Could he be related to this man? And why did this house feel like a dream he'd wandered into long ago? Something about this family, Jake murmured, his fingers brushing against the frame. A faint echo of laughter rang in his mind, a ghost of childhood warmth mingling with the chill that gripped him now. The woman reappeared from the shadows, holding what looked like a weathered journal. "This was my husband S," she said, her voice low, filled with memories. "He kept everything in here." Jake felt an involuntary shiver. "What S in it?" She hesitated, weighing her words as though they were fragile glass. Answers to questions that should never have been asked. But perhaps it's time for the truth to see the light. Clutching the journal, she led the way further into the house. Each step felt heavier, as if the wood itself carried stories that pressed against his soles, urging him to turn back. Yet there was an undeniable pull drawing him deeper into the mystery. As they gathered around a small table in the dimly lit room, she opened the journal, pages yellowed and filled with spidery script. Thomas leaned in closer, eyes wide with search for knowledge. Jake felt his heart rate quicken. This was it, the moment they'd come for the nexus of their intertwined pasts. This, she began, her finger tracing a faded entry. It speaks of a tragedy that changed everything. Of a family that lost itself in the search for love and acceptance. A shudder ran through the room as she shared fragmented pieces, tales of loss, betrayal and endurance. With each revelation, Jake felt the walls closing in, the weight of shared blood and buried history suffocating in its enormity. He leaned closer, transfixed. "What happened? What do you mean?" Decisions made in anger, choices that shattered more than just hearts. As her voice quivered, Jake could see anguish etched in her features, the lines of her life carved as deeply as the ravines of the town surrounding them. Just then, a sudden crash erupted from deeper within the house, startling them all. The journal slipped from her hands, tumbling to the floor, pages fluttering like frightened birds. Chaos threatened to envelop them as reality pressed closer, making Jake's heart race wildly. "What was that?" Thomas's voice rose, panic creeping into his tone. The woman glanced back, fear flashing in her eyes. "I don't know. We need to stay together." But they were already too far into the web of secrets and shadows. Jake felt an instinctual dread rippling through him, a gnawing sense that their pursuit of answers might lead them to something they weren't prepared to face. As their hearts thundered and breaths quickened, the air thickened. They moved toward the source of the sound, each step echoing bold and uncertain, pulled by an unknown force. What else would they uncover in this place steeped in history? And just as they reached the darker edge of the hallway, another loud noise met their ears, this one sharp and unmistakable, a cry that sent chills racing down Jake's spine. "Not again," he gasped. What awaited them in those shadows could change everything or shatter the fragile connection they were beginning to grasp. This time there would be no turning back. Jake's heart hammered in his chest as he stepped further into the darkness. The air felt thick, almost alive with tension, as the eerie silence swallowed the sounds of their movements. He exchanged a quick glance with Thomas, whose eyes mirrored his own fear and confusion. "What if someone is hurt?" Thomas whispered, glancing over his shoulder as concern etched deeper into his features. "Or what if it's something worse?" Jake replied, the words slipping from his lips before he could stop them. The thought hung heavy in the air. What if this house was hiding more than just old wounds? The cry echoed again, a haunting sound that chilled Jake to the bone. It didn't feel like a human scream, more like the wail of sorrow itself cutting through the gloom. Each beat of silence that followed felt like a countdown, the anticipation building like a storm about to break. Suddenly, the woman who had held the journal clutched her arms tightly across her chest. "It's coming from the cellar," she breathed, her voice trembling. "The cellar?" Thomas echoed, a mix of panic and curiosity flashing across his features. "That's where everything started, I senti it?" The stories, the tragedies. Her nod was almost infinitesimal. Yet Jake noticed the way her body seemed to pull back, retreating into the shadows. "We can't just leave it like this," he said, trying to sound braver than he felt. "Stay close," she warned, and without waiting for their agreement, she turned and moved swiftly towards the door leading to the stairs. Each step felt like stepping deeper into a nightmare, one that was just beginning to unfold. The narrow staircase spiraled downward, the flickering light from Thomas's phone casting long, dancing shadows along the walls. Spiders scuttled away as they descended, disturbed from their cobwebbed homes, just as Jake's thoughts scrambled. What if he was not ready for what awaited them? At the bottom of the stairs they reached a door. It shook slightly, the wood battered as if something or someone was banging against it from the other side. Jake could hear a muffled sound, a mixture of cries and desperate pleas that tugged at him. He felt an urge to tear the door down and confront whatever lay beyond, but a nagging doubt stopped him. What if it's too late? He said, his heart racing. What if we can't help? Then we try anyway, Thomas insisted. We can't turn back now. Not when we're this close. With a shared resolve they each took a deep breath. The woman reached for the doorknob, her hand trembling. Jake reached out and placed his hand over hers, drawing strength from their shared fear. On three, she murmured. 1, 2, wait. Thomas interrupted, holding up a hand. What if it's a trap? Do you have a better idea? Jake shot back, exasperated. Before they could argue further, the door swung open with a groan, revealing a room engulfed in shadows. A sliver of light from a broken window illuminated the dusty floor, and the outline of a figure huddled against the far wall. Help me, came a weak, desperate voice that knotted Jake's stomach. Please, they stepped forward in unison, hearts pounding as they approached the figure. It twisted around slowly, the light revealing a face that made Jake's breath hitch, a face that held striking similarities to his own. The reflection of himself, twisted in anguish. Who are you? He gasped, the realization clawing back the breath in his lungs. The figure met his gaze, horror and recognition sparking in its eyes. You don't understand. You can't leave. The weight of the house they stood in suddenly felt crushing. What was this connection? What secrets tied them together in this haunted space? Jake's mind raced as the darkness around him seemed to pulse with new life. An unsettling truth began to unravel, and with it, a realization he couldn't escape. Could he be standing face to face with a past that demanded to be remembered? The question gnawed at him and panic began to rise. Would the answers bring him peace, or plunge him deeper into chaos? All he knew was this: it was only the beginning, and there was something more, something lurking in the shadows that wouldn't stay hidden for long. What was it waiting to reveal? Jake's heart raced as he locked eyes with the figure, both a stranger and himself. The resemblance sent shivers racing down his spine. How could this be? He stepped back, instinctively distancing himself from the specter of shared pain staring back at him. What are you? He stammered, caught between disbelief and growing dread. You need to listen, the figure rasped, its voice raw and desperate. I can't stay in this place. You have to help me break free. Jake looked at Thomas and the woman beside him. Their shock mirrored his own. Help you? Thomas echoed, his tone hesitant. But you're just a ghost, right? Not just a ghost. It took a shaky breath. I'm tied to this place. Tied to you. My past, your future, it all converges here. You have to understand. Jake's mind whirled, crashing waves of confusion against the shore of his reason. Tied to me? How? Memories buried so deep you don't even know they exist. The figure's eyes glistened with unshed tears. The house, it feeds on our memories, our fears. It wants something from you, Jake. The air grew heavy around them, and the shadows seemed to shift, straining to snatch their attention. Jake swallowed hard, the fight or flight instinct wrestling inside him. What is it? What does it want? It wants the truth. It wants you to remember, the figure insisted, inching closer but still trapped in its corner. You left something behind, a choice you made. Until you confront it, I can never be free, and neither will you. What choice? Jake bit back, frustration bubbling to the surface. I don't even know who you are. Not yet, the figure replied. But you will. Listen, you came here for a reason. You came to discover something hidden, something vital. As the figure spoke, memories flashed before Jake's eyes, fragments from his childhood. Moments he thought lost forever. The laughter of a long-lost family member. The warmth of a summer day. The shadow of loss that stretched beyond his comfort. I can't face this, Jake whispered, his voice breaking. What if I'm not strong enough? You are. The confidence in the figure's voice seemed to break through Jake's doubts, urging him on. You have the power to change what's already been written. You just have to confront the pain. Jake started to shake, fear and urgency intertwining within him. I don't know how. You step forward. You unearth the truth. You face your history. The figure leaned closer pleadingly. But beware. This house holds dark secrets. Some you might not be ready to hear. A chill swept through the cellar, pushing against Jake like an impending storm. He could feel the tension coiling tighter around him, and the air crackled with the overwhelming presence of the unknown. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from upstairs, breaking the fragile connection. The figure snapped back to reality, fear flashing across its face. "It's coming! Coming!" Thomas shouted, his eyes darting to the door. "What is? Whatever force binds me to this house. It won't let you leave without confronting your truth. You must decide now." The figure's voice trembled, urgency etched into every word. Jake's mind raced. Could he face the darkness that lurked in every corner of this old house? Was he ready to unveil the lost pieces of his past? With dread pooling in his gut, he took a step closer to the figure, determination igniting. "I'll do it," he vowed. "I won't let this haunt me anymore." Just as he spoke, the walls seemed to shudder, and a distant laugh reverberated through the air, as if the house itself was mocking him. "What waits for you in the shadows, Jake?" the figure asked, its voice barely a whisper now. "Are you prepared for the truth?" In that moment, Jake stood at the precipice of his own fate. The choices ahead felt like a labyrinth of fear or revelation, and he was left with one burning question pressing against his heart: could he unearth the darkness without losing himself in the process? As the shadow grew denser around them, Jake realized it was not just answers he sought, but a reckoning that would shake everything he thought he knew. What horror lay beyond that looming door? Jake's heart pounded in his chest, a mix of fear and determination fueling his next move. He glanced at Thomas and the woman, their expressions a mirror of his own turmoil. He could sense the urgency in the air, heavy and electric, as though the walls were pressing closer, listening for his decision. "Ready or not? This has to be done," he muttered under his breath, summoning any shred of bravery he could find. The figure nodded, the desperate plea in its eyes intensifying with every passing moment. "Follow me," it urged. "We must confront your truth together." With a shaky breath, Jake reached out for the figure's hand. It felt both cold and warm at the same time, a sensation that sent chills down his spine. As they clasped hands, a rush of memories flooded back: childhood laughter, family gatherings, the smell of fresh grass on summer days. The cellar began to shift around them. Walls wavered and blurred like a mirage, revealing fleeting glimpses of the past. A young boy, his brother, Jake realized, playing with a model airplane. Their mother watching with a smile, the sun casting golden rays through the open window. Then came the darkness, creeping in like smoke as shadows danced around the memories. "You have to hold on to that light," the figure shouted over the growing noise of the shadows. "Don't let it fade." "But how?" Jake yelled, tears pooling in his eyes. The shadows around him were growing angrier, swirling like a storm about to unleash its fury. "What do I need to face?" "Your choices. The ones that haunt you. You ran away from them," it cried, pulling him closer. "I didn't run, I was scared," Jake admitted, voice trembling. And at that moment he was not just confronting his past but deep-seated fears that had been buried for years. Suddenly the house roared, walls vibrating with anger while whispers filled the air, taunting, mocking. "Your pain has made you weak," they hissed. "You're nothing without it." "No." Jake's voice quaked, pushing against the tide of darkness. "I won't let you control me anymore." With newfound strength he focused on the light. Images of love, connection, and resilience broke through the murkiness. He thought of the people who cared about him, the experiences that shaped him, and he realized pain was part of his journey, not the end of it. He gripped the figure's hand tighter, feeling a surge of power course through him. "I choose to face my past. I won't let it bind me." "Good, now let the truth come forth." The figure's voice echoed around him, now bolstered by a current of hope. The shadows writhed and shrieked as he called out, "I faced the loss. I lost my brother, but I want to remember him, not just grieve him. I want to be free." In that moment, Jake's world exploded with color. Memories wrapped around him: his brother's laughter, the warmth of his mother's embrace, and the shadows recoiled, shrieking and hissing at the light. Then silence fell. He found himself in the cellar again, the figure looking remarkably at peace. You have begun the journey, Jake. But the truth has deeper roots. Keep digging and beware of what you might find. Jake nodded, breathless, a glimmer of hope shining through the cracks of fear. But that hope only ignited more questions. What does this mean for my future? Will this ever end? A low rumble echoed from the depths of the house, almost as if in response. The floor shuddered beneath him, unsettling shadows stretching across the room, reminding him of the darkness still lurking in every corner. How deep is this truth buried? He thought, unease creeping back into his heart. He realized that the true battle was only just beginning, and somewhere in this house, answers waited, answers that might set him free but could also cost him everything. What would he discover next? And at what price? In the heavy silence that followed, Jake felt a strange mix of relief and dread. He took a moment to gather himself, still clutching the figure's hand. It was time to face whatever lay ahead. They had taken the first step, but the road to understanding was still shrouded in darkness. Are you ready? The figure asked, its voice much calmer now, but still laced with urgency. Ready as I'll ever be, Jake replied, steeling himself. Let us find the truth. Together they moved deeper into the bowels of the house. The air felt thicker, almost suffocating, as if it were alive and watching them. They turned a corner, heading down a narrow, dimly lit hallway filled with dust and cobwebs. Each step felt heavier than the last, the darkness pressing down on him like a weight he couldn't shake. Remember, Lucas is waiting for you, the figure reminded him softly. The mention of his brother's name struck a chord deep within, unlocking a reservoir of emotions he had tried to lock away. Jake felt tears welling but swallowed hard, shifting his focus back to the task at hand. As they walked, the journal that had slipped from the woman's grasp lay scattered on the floor. Jake stopped to pick it up, the pages fluttering like wings caught in a gust of wind. Flipping through, he spotted a family photo, one he hadn't seen before, a younger version of himself, laughing with another boy who mirrored his features. It was a family gathering at the very farm they now stood in. Lucas, he whispered, staring at the innocent gaze of the boy who felt like a ghost from an era long lost. Suddenly an image of the past crashed into him, moments of play, laughter drifting through the air, peaceful days that now felt unreal. The darkness around began to shift again, phantoms whispering secrets of loss and regret. It's too late, they mocked. No, Jake shot back, shaking his head fiercely. It was never too late to remember him. It's time to embrace the love, not the pain. The figure at his side smiled, pride gleaming in its eyes. You're close, Jake. Just a bit further. Jake squared his shoulders, moving purposefully down the hallway, determined to find the source of his family's pain that had echoed through time. The shadowy corners held the weight of secrets, but he was done hiding. He was ready to confront the darkness, to bring it into the light. They arrived at a door at the end of the hall. A groan echoed within, and Jake felt that same pull towards it, a voice beckoning him forward. He reached for the doorknob, his hand trembling slightly, fear tempered with resolve. Whatever is behind here, I'll face it, he murmured, pushing the door open. Inside, Jake was met with a small, dimly lit room. Old toys lay scattered across the floor, a haunting reminder of childhood joy turned somber. Cracked walls whispered tales of a time that had long passed, and in the center stood a figure older, yet undeniably familiar. The air thickened, and Jake realized with shock it was his mother. Mom? He gasped, disbelief flooding his words. Her face softened, as if she had been waiting for this moment for years. Jake, I never thought you'd find me here. Find you? What do you mean? What is happening? He took a cautious step forward, heart racing. Time has frozen here, she explained, her voice breaking, bearing the weight of unshed tears. I've been trapped in the shadows, calling out for you. We lost so much, and you felt the pain I thought I shielded you from. Tears streamed down Jake's face. I wanted to remember, I want you to be free. But at what cost? Every family carries its burdens, Jake, his mother replied, warmth enveloping him as she reached out. It's time to embrace the memories, the love you shared, and the pain. Only then can you break the cycle. He shook with emotion, every word resonating deeper than he thought possible. I've been so scared of letting go, of facing what truly happened. But I don't want to be haunted anymore. His mother nodded, and as she stepped closer, Jake felt a rush of warmth overcome him. He stepped fully into the light and embraced her figure, shattering the darkness surrounding them. "And I won't let the pain define who I am," he vowed, holding her tight. "You'll never be alone again." The shadows receded as a new warmth filled the air, blurring the line between past and present. But Jake wasn't finished yet. He turned back to the remaining figure, now radiant with light. "Let us help each other," he said, reasserting his resolve. "Together we can break the chains binding us, bring our history into a future where it's remembered, not buried." With newfound strength and determination, they removed the echoes of hurt lingering in the corners of the room. Learnt from the sorrow, shared moments, and connected through love and understanding turned the shadows into whispers carried away by the wind. As the last heavy remnants of the past unraveled, Jake felt the warmth of freedom wash over him. Not just for himself but for those he loved, his mother, Lucas, and even Thomas. In that moment, Jake found not just his identity but his family bond revitalized. The weight of the past transformed into a beacon of hope, illuminating the path ahead. Jake walked out from the shadows, determination lighting his way. He was not just a reflection of a rich man. He was pure strength born from love and resilience. The journey wasn't finished, there was still much to explore, but for the first time, Jake stepped confidently into his future, ready to embrace every fragmented memory and forge anew. So Jake turned to Thomas, wiping the remnants of tears. "Where do we go now?" Thomas smiled brightly, an understanding twinkling in his eyes. "Wherever we want." With arms wrapped around each other, they stepped through the door into the unknown, the sweet promise of freedom and transformation ahead. Make sure you share this journey with the world, because stories like Jake's show the power of confronting our past and the bonds we share. So you need to subscribe now, hit that bell, and mark those notifications so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that can change lives. Please leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find their way through our experiences. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending below. Let us spread the love.